The cafeteria erupted in laughter as mashed potatoes splattered across the back of Sierra Grace's head. She didn't turn around. She didn't flinch. She just kept walking. Each step measured and deliberate, like someone who had learned long ago that reaction was exactly what they wanted. But what they didn't know, what nobody at Lincoln High knew, was that beneath Sierra's silence lived something far more dangerous than anger. Something disciplined. Something that had been sharpened by years of 4A, M, training sessions, and the sting of leather against skin. They thought she was just another quiet girl. Easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Sierra Grace had mastered the art of invisibility by the time she turned 16. It wasn't magic. It was survival. At Lincoln High, being different meant being a target. And Sierra was different in every way that mattered to teenage predators. She was small, 5'2" in sneakers that had seen better days. Her clothes came from thrift stores, carefully chosen to blend into backgrounds. Her lunch money stretched across 3 days instead of 1, and when she spoke, which wasn't often, her voice carried the faint accent of someone whose first language wasn't English. Perfect, victim material. What they couldn't see was the way her shoulders sat just slightly wider than most girls her size. The calluses on her knuckles that she hid under long sleeves, the way she walked on the balls of her feet without thinking about it, the scar above her left eyebrow that she covered with carefully applied concealer every morning. Sierra had been training in Muay Thai since she was 8 years old. Her father, Kamon Grace, had fled Thailand 23 years ago with nothing but the clothes on his back and a scholarship to study engineering. What he carried in his heart was different. The discipline of Muay Thai, the respect for tradition, the understanding that true strength came not from hurting others, but from protecting what mattered. When Sierra's mother died in a car accident 3 years ago, Kamon had thrown himself into 2 things: working double shifts at the automotive plant to keep their small apartment and teaching his daughter that the world was not a safe place for people like them. "You learn to fight," he told her on her 8th birthday, wrapping her small hands in cloth wraps for the first time. Not because you want to hurt people, because sometimes the world leaves you no choice. The garage behind their apartment building had been converted into a makeshift gym, heavy bag hanging from the ceiling, Thai pads worn smooth from years of use. The smell of sweat and determination thick in the air every evening after Sierra finished her homework. For 8 years, she had trained kicks that could crack ribs, elbows that could drop grown men, knees that could fold someone in half. But more than that, she had learned control, patience, the difference between fighting and surviving. At Lincoln High, she was just Sierra, the quiet girl who sat alone at lunch, who finished her assignments without speaking in class, who seemed to shrink whenever Madison Torres walked by. Madison Torres, senior, captain of the varsity volleyball team, 5'8" of perfectly straightened blonde hair and a smile that could cut glass. She had noticed Sierra exactly once during freshman year, long enough to decide that quiet girls made excellent entertainment. The mashed potato incident had been Madison's idea, along with her 3 constant companions: Brooklyn Hayes, whose father owned half the car dealerships in town; Autumn Williams, whose mother was on the school board; and Scarlett Reed, who had been Madison's shadow since middle school and never missed an opportunity to prove her loyalty. They called themselves the Court, not officially, but everyone knew. The 4 senior girls who decided who belonged and who didn't, who got invited to parties and who ate lunch alone, who walked through hallways like they owned them and who pressed themselves against lockers to get out of the way. Sierra had been pressing herself against lockers for 3 years. The harassment had started small, whispered comments as she passed. "Look, it's the charity case." Books knocked from her hands in the hallway. "Oops, didn't see you there?" Her locker combination somehow getting changed overnight. Must be a computer glitch. But lately, it had escalated. Last week, Brooklyn had cornered her after chemistry class. "Hey Sierra," she'd said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "My mom was wondering, are you here on some kind of scholarship program? Like, for disadvantaged kids?" Sierra had stared at her, saying nothing. "It's just," Brooklyn continued, "we want to make sure you're getting all the help you need. You know, since your dad works at that factory and all." The words had hit their mark. Sierra's jaw had tightened, her hands had clenched, but she'd walked away without speaking. That had been a mistake. Silence, to girls like Madison, wasn't dignity, it was invitation. The next day, Autumn had filmed Sierra eating lunch alone, posting it on her Instagram story with the caption, "When you're too weird to have friends." 23 comments in the first hour, all laughing, all agreeing. The day after that, Scarlett had started a rumor that Sierra's family was planning to move back to whatever country they came from. "My mom heard they can't afford rent anymore. She told anyone who would listen, probably getting deported or something." Sierra had endured each incident the same way. Head down. Keep walking. Don't react. But she was documenting everything. In a small notebook that she kept hidden in her backpack, Sierra recorded dates, times, witnesses, what was said, what was done, who was watching. Her father had taught her that too. In America, he'd told her, evidence matters more than truth, so you make sure you have both. She photographed the comments on social media before they could be deleted. She recorded conversations on her phone when she could do it safely. She wrote down the names of students who saw but said nothing, teachers who heard but did nothing. Sierra Grace might have been quiet, but she was not passive. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in October. Sierra was walking to her car after school when she heard footsteps behind her. Fast. Multiple sets. She didn't turn around, but her shoulders tensed, her breathing shifted. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Awareness is your first weapon. Always know where the exits are." "Sierra." Madison's voice, sweet as poisoned honey. Sierra stopped walking but didn't turn around. "We need to talk to you about something." Now Sierra turned. Madison stood 10 feet away, flanked by her 3 loyal followers. They had positioned themselves between Sierra and the main building. Her car was another 50 yards away, across the mostly empty parking lot. No witnesses, no cameras, no teachers. Perfect hunting ground. "What do you want?" Sierra asked quietly. Madison smiled. "We've been thinking about you lately, about your situation, and we realize we haven't been very welcoming." Brooklyn stepped forward. "We want to make it up to you." "Yeah," added Autumn. "We're thinking of you like a service project." Scarlett yigled. The sound was sharp, cutting. Sierra said nothing, but her weight shifted slightly, from her heels to the balls of her feet. Her hands, hanging loose at her sides, opened and closed once. Training taking over. Madison took a step closer. "The thing is, we think you might be confused about something. Another step, about your place here. Another step, about where you belong." Madison was close enough now that Sierra could smell her perfume. Expensive. Overwhelming. "You see," Madison continued, "Lincoln High has a certain standard, and we're not sure you understand what that means." "I understand," Sierra said quietly. "Do you?" Brooklyn asked. "Because you keep showing up, keep sitting in our cafeteria, keep walking through our hallways like you have the same rights as everyone else. And that's the problem." Autumn added, "You don't." Madison reached into her designer purse and pulled out her phone. She held it up, camera facing Sierra. "So we thought we'd help you understand." The red recording light blinked on. "This is for your own good," Madison said, voice changing, becoming harder, more direct. "You need to learn where you belong, and where you belong is down." She pointed at the ground, at the dirt and gravel of the parking lot. "Get on your knees." Sierra's pulse spiked, but her breathing stayed controlled. Her stance stayed balanced. "No." Madison's smile faltered. "Just for a second, I'm sorry." "What?" "I said no." Scarlett stepped forward. "You don't get to say no." "Actually," Sierra said, voice still quiet, but something new underneath it. Something steady and dangerous. "I do." Brooklyn laughed. "Oh. This is rich. The little charity case thinks she has a choice." Madison held up her hand. "It's okay. She'll learn." She nodded at Autumn. Autumn moved fast, or what she thought was fast. She grabbed for Sierra's shoulders, trying to force her down. What happened next took exactly 2 seconds. Sierra sidestepped, grabbed Autumn's wrist, twisted, applied pressure. Autumn hit the ground hard, crying out in pain and surprise. The parking lot went silent, except for the sound of Autumn whimpering. Madison's phone was still recording. "You made a mistake," Sierra said, voice calm as still water. She looked directly at the camera. "All of you. She released Autumn's wrist and stepped back. "This is self-defense," she said, still looking at the phone. "I have witnesses, I have recordings, and now I have video evidence of assault." Madison's face had gone white. You can't." "I can," Sierra said, "and I will." She looked at each of them in turn. "You wanted to teach me where I belong? Let me teach you something instead." Sierra pulled out her own phone, opened her voice recording app, hit play. Madison's voice filled the air. Clear, unmistakable. "You need to learn where you belong, and where you belong is down. Get on your knees." "I've been recording everything," Sierra said. "For months. Every threat, every humiliation. Every time you've tried to make me feel like I don't belong here." She looked at Madison's phone, still recording. "And now you've given me the perfect ending." Autumn was struggling to her feet, cradling her wrist. Brooklyn and Scarlett looked ready to run. Madison's jaw was tight, her perfect composure cracking. "You think you're so smart. You think this changes anything? I think," Sierra said, "that you're about to find out what happens when you pick on someone who's been training to fight back their entire life." Madison's eyes narrowed. "Training?" Sierra smiled. For the first time in 3 years of high school, she smiled with her teeth showing. "My father taught me that bullies are like bad kicks," she said. "They look powerful from a distance, but up close, they're just sloppy technique and wasted energy." She took a step forward. Madison took a step back. "The difference between you and me," Sierra continued, "is that I know the difference between causing pain and ending a fight." Another step forward, another step back, "And I've been waiting 3 years for you to give me a reason to show you." Madison's phone was shaking in her hand, the recording light still blinking. "You're crazy," she whispered. "No," Sierra said. "I'm tired." The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled tight. Then Madison made her second mistake of the day. She dropped her phone and lunged forward. Fingernails aimed at Sierra's face. Sierra's response was automatic, trained, precise. She caught Madison's wrist, pulled her forward, off balance, stepped to the side, and with one smooth motion, used Madison's own momentum to send her sprawling into the dirt. Madison hit the ground hard. Her perfectly straightened hair became a tangled mess. Her designer clothes were now decorated with gravel and dust. She looked up at Sierra from the dirt, eyes wide with shock and something that might have been fear. "Now you know where you belong," Sierra said quietly. Brooklyn and Scarlett were backing away. Phones out, recording everything. "This isn't over," Madison said, struggling to her feet. "You have no idea what you just started." Sierra picked up Madison's phone from where it had fallen. The recording was still going. She stopped it, saved it, and then looked up at the 4 girls who had spent 3 years trying to break her. "You're right," she said. "This isn't over." She held up the phone. "But it's not going the way you think it is." Madison brushed dirt from her clothes, trying to salvage some dignity. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe," Sierra said, "but you're going to regret it more." She started walking toward her car, then stopped and turned back. "Oh, and Madison, next time you want to teach someone their place, make sure you know yours first." Sierra drove home. Her hands were steady on the wheel. Her breathing was calm, but her mind was racing. She had crossed a line today, broken her own rule about staying invisible, revealed that she was not the helpless victim they thought she was. Madison Torres was not the type of person who accepted humiliation quietly. Neither were her friends. And they had resources that Sierra didn't. Money, connections, parents who could make phone calls that mattered, but Sierra had something they didn't understand. Training, discipline, and 8 years of learning that the only way to stop a bully was to make the cost of bullying higher than they were willing to pay. When she got home, she uploaded all the videos to a secure cloud account, made copies on 3 different devices, organized her evidence files, and then she called her father at work. "Papa," she said when he answered, "I need to tell you something." She explained what had happened. The months of harassment, the confrontation, the video evidence. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, her father spoke. "You defended yourself?" "Yes." "You controlled yourself?" "Yes." "You have evidence?" "Yes." Another pause. "Then you did what I taught you." "But Sierra, this is only the beginning." "I know, Papa. They will try to hurt you now. Not just with words. They will try to make you pay for embarrassing them. Sierra looked at her hands. Still steady. Still strong. Let them try. You are ready for that? Sierra thought about 8 years of training, about her mother's memory, about 3 years of silence and shrinking and taking whatever they threw at her. I'm ready. That night, Sierra lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Madison would not let this go. Neither would her friends. They would regroup, plan, come back harder. But Sierra was not the same girl who had walked into Lincoln High 3 years ago. She was not the frightened freshman who had learned to make herself small. She was her father's daughter. Her mother's legacy, 8 years of discipline and training wrapped in the body of a girl who looked like she couldn't hurt a fly. And tomorrow, Madison Torres was going to find out just how dangerous quiet girls could be. Sierra closed her eyes and began planning her next move. Because this was war now, and she intended to win. The next morning, Sierra arrived at school to find Madison Torres waiting by her locker. But Madison wasn't alone. She had brought reinforcements. 5 girls stood with her, all seniors, all part of Madison's extended social circle, all looking like they had something to prove. And standing slightly behind them, arms crossed and jaw set, was someone Sierra hadn't expected. Derek Morrison, 6'3", 200 pounds of muscle earned through 4 years of varsity football. Madison's on and off boyfriend, and the kind of guy who solved problems with his fists. The hallway had gone quiet. Students pressed themselves against lockers, pulling out phones. Sensing that something big was about to happen, Sierra approached her locker calmly. She nodded once at Madison. Madison. Sierra. The greeting was polite, civil, the kind of conversation teachers would later say showed no signs of impending violence. But everyone in that hallway could feel the electricity in the air. I think we need to clear something up, Madison said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were bright with anger. About what happened yesterday. What about it? Sierra asked, working the combination on her locker. People are getting the wrong idea. They think you won something. Sierra opened her locker, retrieved her chemistry textbook. Did I not? Madison's face flushed. You got lucky. Caught me off guard. But luck runs out. Sierra closed her locker and turned to face the group. 8 against 1. In a hallway full of witnesses, all of them recording. Is that what you think happened? Sierra asked. Luck? Derek stepped forward. What I think, he said, voice low and threatening, is that you put your hands on my girlfriend. And where I come from, that has consequences. Sierra looked up at him. All 200 pounds of high school muscle and teenage aggression. Where you come from, she said quietly. Do they teach boys to fight girls? Or is that just your personal specialty? Derek's face darkened. You think you're funny? I think you're exactly what I expected you to be. The hallway was dead silent now. Even the usual chatter of locker slams and footsteps had stopped. Madison put her hand on Derek's arm. Derek. Not here. Too many cameras. But Derek was past listening. No. I want to hear what this little girl has to say. Sierra's stance shifted, almost imperceptibly. Her weight moved to the balls of her feet, her hands, hanging at her sides, relaxed completely. I think, she said, voice still calm, that you should walk away. Derek laughed. Or what? Sierra looked around the hallway, at the cameras, at the witnesses, at the perfect setup Madison had created. Or you're going to find out why smart fighters don't pick battles in public. Derek took a step closer. You threatening me? I'm educating you. Madison was pulling on Derek's arm now. Derek. Come on. Not here. But Derek shook her off. Nah. I want to see what all the fuss is about. He moved fast. Or what passed for fast among high school football players who had never been in a real fight. He reached for Sierra's shoulder, probably planning to shove her, intimidate her, show everyone who was really in charge. Sierra's response was lightning. She sidestepped Derek's reach, grabbed his extended arm, used his momentum against him, and with one fluid motion, sent all 200 pounds of Derek Morrison face first into the row of lockers. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Derek bounced off the metal and stumbled backward. Dazed. Blood trickled from his nose. The hallway erupted. Students shouted. Phones captured everything. And through it all, Sierra stood exactly where she had been, breathing calmly, hands at her sides. Derek touched his nose, saw the blood. His eyes went wide with shock and then narrow with rage. "You're dead," he whispered. "No," said a voice from behind the crowd. "She's not." Everyone turned. Principal Martinez stood at the end of the hallway, flanked by 2 security guards and the school's resource officer. "But you might be suspended." "Mr. Morrison." Derek's face went white. "She attacked me." Principal Martinez looked around the hallway, at the dozens of students with phones out, all recording. "From what I can see," he said, "she defended herself against someone twice her size who initiated physical contact." Madison stepped forward. "Sir, there's more to this story. I'm sure there is, Miss Torres, which is why all of you are coming to my office. Right now." As the crowd dispersed and the main players followed, Principal Martinez down the hallway, Sierra caught sight of something that made her blood run cold. Hanging from one of the ceiling-mounted security cameras was a small piece of black tape. The camera had been disabled. Someone had known this confrontation was going to happen. Someone had made sure there would be no official record. Someone had planned this very carefully. And as Sierra walked toward the principal's office, she realized that Madison Torres was smarter than she had given her credit for. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about destruction. And Sierra was walking straight into the trap. Principal Martinez's office felt smaller, with 8 people crammed inside. Sierra sat in the chair closest to the door, hands folded in her lap, breathing steady. Across from her, Madison dabbed at her perfectly applied makeup with a tissue. Playing the victim with Academy Award precision, Derek slumped in his chair, an ice pack pressed to his nose, shooting murderous glares at Sierra every few seconds. The other girls clustered around Madison like a protective shield, whispering comfort and shooting accusatory looks. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Principal Martinez said, reviewing the statements he'd taken. "Miss Grace, you claim this was self-defense?" "It was self-defense," Sierra said quietly. "And Miss Torres, you claim Miss Grace has been threatening you and your friends for weeks." Madison's voice was perfectly calibrated, hurt but brave, vulnerable but strong. "Yes, Sierra. We've been afraid to say anything because, well, look what happened to Derek when he tried to help." Sierra's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Principal Martinez looked at the other students. "And all of you witnessed Miss Grace threatening Miss Torres?" Nods all around. A chorus of agreement. "She's been following us," Brooklyn added, "taking pictures without permission. It's like stalking, making us feel unsafe." Autumn chimed in. "We just wanted it to stop," Scarlett whispered. Sierra listened to the performance with something approaching admiration. It was expertly orchestrated, consistent, believable, and completely fabricated. Principal Martinez turned to Sierra. "Do you have anything to say about these allegations?" Sierra reached into her backpack. Slowly, deliberately. "I have evidence," she said. She placed her phone on the desk. "Audio recordings of threats made against me, video of yesterday's incident in the parking lot, screenshots of social media posts targeting me." Madison's eyes flickered, just for a second. "I also have witness statements from students who have seen the harassment I've endured." "Witness statements?" Principal Martinez asked. Sierra nodded. "I've been documenting everything for 3 months." She pulled out her notebook, opened it to the first page. September 15th. "Madison Torres and Brooklyn Hayes blocked my access to my locker." Madison said, quote, "Maybe you'd be happier at a school more suited to your situation." End quote. She flipped the page. September 22nd. "Autumn Williams filmed me eating lunch alone and posted it on social media with mocking comments." Another page. September 28th. "Scarlett Reed started rumors about my family's immigration status." With each entry, Madison's face grew paler. October 3rd. "Madison Torres demanded I get on my knees in the parking lot. When I refused, Autumn Williams attempted to physically force me down." Sierra looked up at Principal Martinez. "I have recordings of all of this." The room went silent. Madison recovered first. "Those could be fake. Anyone can edit audio." "True," Sierra said, "which is why I also have this." She pulled out a second phone. "An older model. My father gave me this for emergencies. It automatically uploads everything to a secure server with timestamps and GPS coordinates." She placed it next to her regular phone. "Everything I've recorded has been verified by independent metadata." Principal Martinez looked at the phones, then at Madison, then back at Sierra. Miss Grace, these are serious allegations. Yes. Sire. They are. I'll need to review this evidence thoroughly before making any decisions. Madison leaned forward. Sir, with all due respect, this is exactly what we've been talking about. She's trying to manipulate the situation, making herself look like the victim when she's the one who's been threatening us. She put me in the hospital, Derek added, touching his bandaged nose. Actually, Sierra said quietly, you put yourself in the hospital when you decided to physically assault someone half your size. Derek started to stand. You little, Mr. Morrison, Principal Martinez said sharply. Sit down. Derek sat. Principal Martinez looked around the room. I'm going to need to speak with each of you individually, and I'll be reviewing all evidence before making any disciplinary decisions. He stood. For now, all of you return to class. And I don't want to hear about any further incidents while I'm conducting this investigation. As they filed out of the office, Madison managed to brush against Sierra's shoulder. This isn't over, she whispered. Sierra didn't respond, but she was already planning her next move. The attack came that night. Sierra was walking home from the library when she noticed the car following her. A black BMW with tinted windows, driving slowly. Matching her pace, she turned down a side street. The car followed. She cut through the park. The car circled around to the other side. Sierra's training kicked in. She found a well-lit area near the basketball courts where a pickup game was ending. Witnesses, safety in numbers. The car pulled up to the curb. The windows rolled down. Hey. Sierra. Madison's voice. Sweet as poisoned honey. Sierra kept walking. We just want to talk. More voices now. Brooklyn. Autumn. Scarlet. And others Sierra didn't recognize. The car doors opened. 6 girls got out. All seniors. All bigger than Sierra. And behind them, 3 guys. Not from Lincoln High. Older. College age, maybe. The kind of guys who looked like they solved problems with their fists and asked questions later. Now we can have a real conversation, Madison said, walking towards Sierra. Without cameras, Brooklyn added. Without witnesses, Autumn said. Without consequences. Scarlet finished. Sierra backed toward the basketball court. The pickup game had ended. The players were loading into their cars. Help, she called out. The guys at the court looked over, saw 9 people approaching one small girl, and kept loading their cars. This was the difference between the movies and real life. In real life, people minded their own business. Sierra was on her own. Nobody's coming to save you. Madison said, just like yesterday, just like tomorrow, you're alone. Sierra, you've always been alone. The circle closed around her, but don't worry. Madison continued. We're going to teach you exactly where you belong. And this time, there won't be any recordings. One of the college guys stepped forward. You the girl who broke Derek's nose? Sierra didn't answer. Funny thing about that, he said. Derek's my little brother. Sierra's blood went cold. Name's Marcus Morrison. And I don't like people who hurt my family. He cracked his knuckles, especially little girls who think they know how to fight. Sierra looked around the circle. 9 against 1. In a dark park. No witnesses. No cameras. Perfect hunting ground. Madison smiled. Any last words? Sierra took a deep breath. Just 3. She said. Yeah? What's that? Sierra's stance shifted. Her hands came up. Her weight moved to the balls of her feet. You chose wrong. Marcus laughed. Oh. This is gonna be fun. He moved first. Big. Strong. Confident. And completely unprepared for what happened next. Sierra's response was pure Muay Thai. Clinical. Devastating. She sidestepped Marcus's clumsy charge, drove her knee into his solar plexus. Followed with an elbow to his temple, Marcus hit the ground like a falling tree. The circle tightened. 2 more guys rushed her simultaneously. Sierra spun. Her leg whipped out in a perfect roundhouse kick, connected with the first guy's ribs. The crack was audible. He doubled over, gasping. The second guy grabbed for her from behind. Sierra dropped low. Spun. Swept his legs. He went down hard. 3 seconds. 3 opponents down. The girls backed away, eyes wide with shock. What the hell? Brooklyn whispered. Madison's face had gone white. How did you? Sierra straightened, rolled her shoulders. Her breathing was controlled, steady. 8 years, she said quietly. 8 years of training. Every morning before school, every evening after homework, she looked at each of them in turn. My father taught me that bullies are like bad kicks. They look powerful from a distance, but up close, she gestured at the 3 guys on the ground. They're just sloppy technique and wasted energy. Madison was backing toward the car. This isn't possible. You're nobody. No, Sierra said. I'm somebody you should have left alone. The college guys were struggling to their feet. Marcus was holding his ribs. The other 2 looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. You want to try again? Sierra asked. Marcus looked at her. Really looked. Saw the way she stood. The control in her movements. The complete absence of fear in her eyes. Nah, he said. We're good. He limped toward the car. His friends followed. Madison stood by the open car door, staring at Sierra like she was seeing her for the first time. This isn't over, she said. Yes, Sierra replied. It is. You think because you can fight, that changes anything? You think that makes you belong here? Sierra walked toward her. Madison flinched. I don't need to belong anywhere you don't want me. Sierra said, but you need to understand something. She stopped, just out of arm's reach. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not transferring schools. I'm not dropping out. I'm not disappearing. Her voice was calm. Certain. And if you ever come at me again, if you ever threaten me again, if you ever so much as look at me wrong again, she let the words hang in the air. You'll find out what 8 years of real training looks like when I'm not holding back. Madison's hands were shaking. You're threatening me. No, Sierra said. I'm educating you. The car doors slammed. The engine started. The BMW disappeared into the night. Sierra stood alone in the park. Adrenaline slowly fading. Hands still steady. Then she pulled out her phone and called her father. Papa, she said when he answered. I need you to come pick me up. What happened? I stopped hiding. The video went viral overnight. Someone at the park had been recording, a phone hidden behind a tree, amateur footage. Shaky and dark, but clear enough to see everything. Sierra's perfect technique. The 3 college guys going down like dominoes. Madison's group retreating in terror. Within 12 hours, it had 500,000 views. Local girls' martial arts skills go viral. High school bullies pick wrong target. Muay Thai versus mean girls, guess who wins? The comments section exploded. Holy crap. Where did she learn to fight like that? Those bullies got exactly what they deserved. This girl is my new hero. Madison Torres is Doan. Because someone had done their research, posted screenshots of Madison's social media, the cruel posts about Sierra, the mocking videos, the evidence of months of harassment, the internet had chosen its side, and it wasn't Madison's. By Thursday morning, Lincoln High was in chaos. News vans in the parking lot, reporters trying to interview students, the school district releasing carefully worded statements about investigating all incidents thoroughly. Madison didn't come to school. Neither did Derek, or any of Madison's inner circle. Sierra walked through the hallways to something she'd never experienced before. Respect. Students nodded as she passed, smiled. A few even said hello. That was amazing. One freshman whispered, "You're like a superhero." Another said, Sierra didn't feel like a superhero. She felt tired, relieved, but mostly, she felt free. The weight she'd been carrying for 3 years, the constant tension of waiting for the next attack, the fear of walking alone, it was gone. Principal Martinez called her to his office Thursday afternoon. "Miss Grace," he said, "I've completed my investigation." Sierra sat in the same chair she'd occupied 2 days earlier, but everything felt different now. "The evidence you provided has been thoroughly reviewed. Audio analysis confirms authenticity. Multiple witnesses have corroborated your statements." He paused. "Miss Torres and her associates will not be returning to Lincoln High." Sierra blinked. "What?" "Expulsion. All of them. The harassment campaign you documented represents the most systematic case of bullying I've seen in 20 years of education." He leaned forward. "I owe you an apology, Miss Grace. This school failed you. I failed you. If you had come forward sooner, I did come forward." Sierra said quietly. "Multiple times. Nothing happened." Principal Martinez's face reddened. "You're right, and that's going to change." He slid a folder across the desk. The district is implementing new anti-bullying protocols, anonymous reporting systems, mandatory investigation procedures, zero tolerance for retaliation. Sierra opened the folder, saw her name at the top of the first page. We'd like you to help design the program. Principal Martinez said, your documentation methods, your evidence gathering. It's exactly the kind of systematic approach we need. Sierra looked up. You want me to help other students? I want you to make sure this never happens to anyone else. The transformation at Lincoln High didn't happen overnight, but it happened. Within a month, the new reporting system had uncovered a dozen other harassment cases. Students who had been suffering in silence finally had a voice. Sierra found herself in a position she'd never expected. Not just survivor, but advocate. She started a self-defense club, not for fighting. She told the first group of nervous freshmen who showed up, for confidence, for knowing you have options. Her father came to help teach. Come on, Grace. Quiet and respectful, showing teenage girls how to stand up straight, how to project strength, how to defend themselves if words weren't enough. Fighting is last resort, he told them in his careful English, but if last resort comes, you be ready. The club grew, 10 girls became 20, became 50. Sierra taught them more than kicks and punches. She taught them documentation, evidence gathering, how to build a case that couldn't be ignored. You have more power than you think, she told them, but you have to be smart about how you use it. By winter break, Lincoln High felt like a different school. The hallways were lighter, safer. Students walked with their heads up instead of their eyes down. And Madison Torres became a cautionary tale, a reminder that privilege and cruelty had consequences when someone was brave enough to fight back. Sierra's phone buzzed with a text message as she was leaving school on the last day before winter break. Unknown number. I saw the video. You probably don't remember me, but I'm Maria Santos. I graduated 2 years ago. Madison and her friends made my life hell. I transferred schools because of them. I just wanted to say thank you. You did what I never could. You stood up. You fought back. You won. And now other girls won't have to go through what we did. You're a hero. Sierra. Whether you want to be or not. Sierra stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back, you're wrong about one thing. You were brave too. Surviving is brave. Getting out is brave. We all fight in different ways. She paused, then added, but thank you, and if you ever need someone to have your back, you know where to find me. As Sierra walked to her car, she thought about the girl she'd been 3 months ago. Quiet, invisible, afraid. That girl was still there, would always be there. The careful observer, the documenter, the planner, but now she was something else too. She was someone who fought back, someone who stood up, someone who refused to be erased, and most importantly, someone who made sure others could do the same. Sierra Grace had spent 8 years learning how to fight, but it had taken just 3 months to learn something more important. How to win, not just the battle, but the war. And as she drove home through the streets of Lincoln, past the school that had tried to break her and failed, Sierra smiled. Because quiet girls, it turned out, were the most dangerous fighters of all. They documented everything. They planned carefully, they struck precisely, and they never, ever gave up. The war was over. Justice had won. And Sierra Grace was finally, truly free. She gestured to the corner where a news crew was setting up equipment. Channel 7 was doing a feature story on the Lincoln High Self-Defense Initiative. What had started as one girl's desperate fight for survival had become a model program being adopted by schools across 3 states. The reporters want to know if we're teaching girls to be violent. Sierra continued. They want to know if we're creating fighters. Murmurs rippled through the group. Sierra smiled. We're not creating fighters. We're revealing the warriors who were always there. She nodded to her father, who stood beside a display table covered with certificates and awards. Come on, Grace beamed with pride as he watched his daughter address the room. But remember what we've learned. Sierra said, violence is not strength. Control is strength. Knowledge is strength. Documentation is strength. She held up her phone. This device has ended more fights than any kick or punch we've practiced. Evidence stops bullies faster than fists. Truth hits harder than elbows. The girls nodded. They had all been taught the Sierra Grace protocol, Document everything. Build your case. Fight smart, not just hard. Before we demonstrate what you've learned for our guests, Sierra said, I want you to meet someone special. She gestured toward the gymnasium entrance. A young woman walked in, mid-20s, professional attire, confident stride. This is Maria Santos, Sierra announced. She graduated from Lincoln High 4 years ago. She survived what many of you have survived. And now she works for the State Department of Education, helping schools implement anti-bullying programs. Maria stepped forward. Sierra Grace saved my life. She said simply, not because she taught me to fight, because she taught me I was worth fighting for. The room was silent, except for the soft whir of news cameras. There are Sierras in every school. Maria continue. Quiet girls who document everything, who build cases, who wait for the right moment to strike back. She looked directly at the news camera. We're not creating victims anymore. We're creating advocates, and bullies across the country should be very afraid. As the demonstration began and the girls showcased their skills for the cameras, Sierra stepped outside for a moment of quiet. But here's what the critics don't understand. Sierra continued. I didn't want to fight. I wanted to disappear. The system forced me to choose between destruction and self-defense. Her voice grew stronger. No student should have to make that choice. Senator Marcus Johnson from Texas spoke next. What about the students who were expelled from your school? Some argue their punishment was too severe. Sierra's jaw tightened slightly. This was the question she'd been preparing for. Senator, Madison Torres and her associates weren't expelled for being mean girls. They were expelled for running a sophisticated harassment campaign designed to force a student to drop out of school. She pulled up a presentation slide on the room's main screen. They hacked my school accounts. They fabricated evidence to frame me for academic misconduct. They coordinated physical attacks. They attempted to destroy my family's reputation in the community. The slide showed a timeline, dates, screenshots, audio waveforms. This wasn't playground bullying. This was criminal harassment. And the only reason they faced consequences is because I had 8 years of martial arts training and a father who taught me to document everything. She leaned into the microphone. How many students don't have those advantages? How many suffer in silence because they don't know they have options? The room was dead quiet. Madison Torres transferred to a private school in another state. Her family moved rather than face the community's shame. That's privilege. Senators, the ability to escape consequences. Sierra's voice dropped to just above a whisper, forcing everyone to lean forward. But the girl she tried to destroy? That girl is sitting in front of the United States Senate, asking you to make sure no other student has to choose between their safety and their education. The applause started slowly. One person in the gallery, then another. Within seconds, the entire room was on its feet. Senator Walsh called for order, but she was smiling. Miss Grace, what specifically are you asking Congress to do? Sierra straightened. This was her moment. Fund the National Student Documentation Initiative. Require schools to implement anonymous reporting systems with mandatory investigation protocols. Train counselors and administrators to recognize systematic harassment campaigns. She paused. And most importantly, create federal protection for student whistleblowers. When a student presents evidence of harassment, that evidence must be investigated. Period. Senator Johnson leaned back. The costs of such a program are less than the cost of one student suicide. Sierra interrupted. Are less than the cost of one school shooting by a bullied student who snapped. Are less than the cost of a generation of kids who learn that might makes right. She stood up. Even though protocol suggested she remain seated. Senators, you have the power to end the silence. You have the power to give every quiet kid in America the tools I wish I'd had on day one. The room held its breath. Don't just listen to my story. Learn from it. Because right now, in schools across this country, there are girls documenting their harassment, building their cases, waiting for someone in power to care enough to act. She looked directly into the C-SPAN camera. They're watching this hearing. They're counting on you to be their voice when their own voices aren't enough. Sierra sat down. The committee room erupted in applause that lasted 3 full minutes. Later that evening, as Sierra sat in her hotel room reviewing news coverage of the hearing, her phone buzzed with a message that made her heart skip. Sierra, it's Madison. I saw your Senate testimony. You won. Congratulations. I transferred schools, lost most of my friends, and my family had to move because of what happened. I hope you're happy." Sierra stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back, "Madison, I'm not happy you suffered. I'm happy other students won't have to. The difference between us is that I fought to build something better. You fought to tear someone down. I hope you learned the difference." 6 months later, the Student Safety and Documentation Act passed the Senate by a vote of 78 to 22. Sierra Grace, the quiet girl from Lincoln High, had just changed federal law, and in schools across America, quiet kids started speaking up because they finally knew someone was listening.